The Lord of the Rings of Power, Season 2, Episode 4. We got some very important information about our wizard and rune. We had the introduction of Tom Bombadil, and we had the creepy entrance of the Barrow-Wights. All that and more after this. All right, guys, we're here back with Variants, cover all things Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, anime, gaming, Star Wars, and more. And if you like this kind of content, be sure to give the video a thumbs up. If you don't like the entrance, hit the thumbs down. If you love the content by the end of the video, hey, that's what the subscribe button for is. But look, let's talk about this episode. Overall, I think I would give the episode an 8 out of 10. I think it was very, very solid overall. And I know there's going to be things the fandom is absolutely up in arms about. Having the diversity of the elves that we had shown is going to rile up a lot of people. The elves, the cast in which Galadriel brought to go ahead and go to Eregion and deliver their message to one and only Celebrimbor is definitely going to be met with some raised eyebrows and some concerned looks. And I understand where people are coming from as far as the lore is coming, but again, with based upon the city we've seen in scene one, kind of to be expected at this moment in time, things are going to continue in that manner. And as the episode progresses, we continued on with Elrond and Galadriel continuing to have, for all intents and purposes, a complicated relationship. Elrond wants to trust Galadriel, but again, after everything we saw from season one, Galadriel, are we necessarily ready for that moment in time to where we could be like, look, we trust her, we understand her, we get her? Because season one, Galadriel just, for me personally, wasn't it. Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below on that one. But as far as I was concerned, she really just didn't do much of anything for me. So for her to all of a sudden be thrust into this moment where she can be like this lieutenant under Elrond, where she can seize the moment and make things happen, I'm not really sure she's done enough to deserve the title. But again, we still need to move these characters forward with any possible way. As they're going on their way to Eregion, they end up accidentally stumbling through a bridge that is absolutely just eviscerated. Like, this bridge was in the middle of nowhere above I don't know what, but it was absolutely destroyed, demolished in the worst possible shape. Anyway, so as the bridges collapse, they have to circle around. Galadriel starts sensing the power of her ring. She starts kind of seeing the gift of foresight that she's had going on for a good long while now. And ultimately, she was like, "Look, Elrond, going the way you're going to end up going is wrong. We're going to end up in a serious situation." She sees a hand of a Barrow-Wight jump out, which, if you watch the live stream, you saw me jump like a little baby. So, congratulations to that. But as things were currently going through the episode, they end up going through the Barrow Downs, where they run into the Barrow-Wights. And if you know anything about the Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, with the first book of the Lord of the Rings, you know that the Barrow-Wights is the last place on Middle Earth that you would probably want to be, aside from maybe Mordor. And I would probably rather be in Mordor than where the Barrow-Wights are. Just personal preference for myself. The Barrow-Wights are undead old kings who are buried, who have suddenly risen back up, and they're basically unkillable unless, and keyword is unless, they are defeated by the very same weapon in which they had owned at some moment in time or had taken them out. So it's like, that's some interesting little gimmickry that we'll have to continue to work with. But at the end of the day, I think it works out fine for everyone. And ultimately, we ended up losing one of our party members to these Barrow-Wights, but ultimately, because they elves were wise and they remembered how to kind of quote unquote defeat these Barrow-Wights, that they were able to escape, only losing one party member. Circle back, we end up going off to go see Nori and Poppy, who are still wandering the desert in the middle of nowhere. And basically, they run into Merrimack, which is the first of the Stewards that we meet, which is another type of hobbit that has been long in the Lord of the Rings genre from J.R.R. Tolkien's world. The Stewards very much are real, and they very much inhabit some style of space over here. Ultimately, they get kind of brought in as criminals and traitors, and like, look, at the end of the day, you're going to be kicked out of here. They start asking them some questions. They kind of figure out that their leader, the one who's been leading the Harfoots this whole time and been singing this song that Poppy is picking up on, in any and all intents and purposes, is basically leading them and may have been a leader from their time period forever ago, so that the people of the Stewards are somehow directly related to the Harfoots. So interesting little bit of collaboration world building there. Ultimately, the Men of Rune, after much prodding from the Dark Wizard, who we learn is an Istar from one Tom Bombadil, who we'll talk about in a moment, is basically was once a good wizard, then sought out more and more and more and more power, and then went down this dark road. Thus, the people of Rune have started to suffer, and he cursed the Men of Rune, Brink being their leader, the main one with the mask, who we're seeing a lot of screen time for. Albeit the masks have been removed yet, and I still think the masks are a very, very cool concept. Ultimately goes to interrogate these stewards and try and get some direct answers. And the stewards are like, "We're not giving you anything." He backhands the leader right immediately, or that was his guy. I can't remember which one. She goes down, and then ultimately Brink helps her back up and is like, "Look, this is the only time I'll be asking nicely. The next time I'm asking, I'm bringing the wizard. Just so you're all familiar, the reason we wear these masks is because of him. Just so we're clear." And then kind of walks off, and we're kind of left to figure out what in the heck the stewards are going to do now that they're taking in our Harfoot refugees. Well, as our Harfoots were going out and looking for our wizard ended up stumbling upon a one, the only Tom Bombadil, who we've all been anxiously waiting to see. And I gotta say, as far as the adaptation is concerned for Tom Bomb, I think this is as close as we're going to get to Tom Bombadil. He was aloof, he was goofy, he answered every question with a riddle, and he only gave subliminal answers. And we saw a little bit of an homage to Goldberry, as our wizard was able to hear her voice, hear her singing in what appeared to be that jar that was shaking on the window as he was finishing off bathing himself, getting himself clean from all the sand he kicked up from his own loss of control of his power and understanding what was going on. Tom Bombadil's kind of giving him vague answers, vague mysteries, and he was like, "Hey, the people of Rune were kind of like poking around Tom Bombadil's edge of the property," and the wizard's like, "Hey, what the heck are they doing? What are they up to? Why are they doing what they're doing?" And he's like, "They've been looking for me for a while. Things kind of went sour. The people have been suffering because of this wizard who came and saw me first. You definitely weren't the first wizard to meet me. You were the second Istar to kind of make your way out here. So that's kind of a huge drop and a huge tell for everyone going on that either this is going to be a Saruman Gandalf thing or these are the two blue wizards. I'm going to go on the route. These are both two blue wizards. One was good, one was bad. They had a falling out. It's something that you can kind of work with and kind of make at least be a sort of a thing. Maybe they will eventually work together. They'll see kind of what each side and each person kind of brings. One is the evil side of the wizard, and then one is the good side of the wizard. They work things out. It's a whole lot of theory crafting to kind of wrap your head around. It was more of the team of Camel would be our interesting individual, but at this point in time, I don't have any information to support that, so that one's going to be kind of tossed out the window. As things continue to go on, Arondir is questing to go get Theo back. He ends up with Astrid and our boy Steeldor. Ultimately, they end up getting attacked by a mud centipede because I guess that exists now, and it was horrifying to see because like it opened up its jaws and then had like something else in it, kind of like a Resident Evil esque thing. Arondir continues to be a BA, cuts the thing open, and survives. As they're going through the forest looking for Theo, they get more and more clues that, hey, these are Ents who did this. And ultimately, the Ents, led by Winterbloom, who is the mother who was like tending the forest. She was an Ent wife who was kind of making sure everything was going good, everything was profitable. And for them, as far as raising the seeds from sap all the way up, well, from acorn to tree, I'm not very good with kind of nature. So bear with me on that. Raises them from the time they're born, basically until they're fully grown trees, and tends them, make sure everything's good. And ultimately, the wild men have and orcs have kind of broken a peace with them and started burning and attacking and hacking the forest and causing all kinds of issues. So she's deep, deep in mourning. Hence why the wild men have started being picked off left, right, and center and started being held for cages. What they're going to do with them after the cages, I don't really know. But Arondir, being the elf and the wise person in the room, is able to talk to her. It's like, "Hey, look, I'm sorry. I know I didn't do this, but I sympathize with your plight. I sympathize with what you're going through. We'll do everything we can to heal the forest, heal the relationship. We'll try and work on fixing our bonds together." And ultimately, Winterbloom, through some coaxing, is kind of like, "I understand. Everything's good. We'll be fine with this." Unfortunately, Winterbloom, by that moment in time, had already hit Astrid and hit her with a giant tree. She is, just for everyone remembers, basically, you're getting hit by a giant log, smacks Astrid. She flies, hits a rock with her spine, and then falls unconscious. So personally, I thought she was just that she was done for. That was it. On Astrid, for all intents and purposes, seems fine, just moving a little gingerly, and is trying to like kind of get back up. As she's trying to get back up, a man named Hagen, who is in a cage with Theo, runs up, and it turns out that they have a thing going on, which our boy Isildur now is over in the corner pouting about because he wanted to kind of get to know Astrid on a more biblical sense or a little bit more intimately, if you will. So now he's third wheeling that, and Arondir's like catching everything that's going on. He's just like, okay, just feel bad for you. My bad, nothing really to do with this. As the story continues and starts finishing off the episode, we have Galadriel and Elrond kind of pick up the trail of the orcs, and they are hacking and looting their way through the forest. They were chasing a horse to try and capture it because they were either going to ride it or eat it. Jury's out on that one. And as they're trying to shoot the horse, they end up missing so badly that they end up hitting one of our elf party members, who then is basically making a lot of noise, kind of giving away the elf position. Things are in a bad state of mind. Ultimately, they kind of have to pull him behind a rock, and then as they're kind of covering his mouth, making sure he's not making as many noises, even though he's choking on his own blood, Galadriel puts her hand on his injury, and the ring activates and seals his wound, which, a little bit of magic there, a little bit of her accidentally tapping into what her ring of power can really do. So that's super interesting to see. And Galadriel decides to take it upon herself, be look, I'll be the sacrifice. I'm going to go out and get caught. You guys leave, go do what you need to do, go to Eregion, or go back to our king and kind of let him know, hey, things are going badly right now. The orcs are marching on Eregion. We don't know if it's for an alliance or they're going directly to war with everything that's going on in Eregion. So we need to kind of figure that out really, really quickly. And Galadriel threw some really, really cool and unique shots. Albeit I still get tired of the Matrix shot that continually happens throughout whenever you kind of get these kinds of interesting action scenes. But again, the shot where she throws up the lantern, shoots it with a bow and arrow, it explodes and just kind of envelops enemies, kind of like something that would happen in like Baldur's Gate when you throw like a alchemist fire. It seemed really, really cool, very, very well done. Ultimately, as she's about to make her escape, she's kind of like whipping chains around, beating up orcs. They're kind of attacking one at a time. Adar eventually throws a hook, catches her, yanks her down, and then as she pulls up her fire arrow to try and shoot him, he has that black gauntlet that we saw on the posters for Rings of Power Season 1, snuffs out the arrow, and is like, pleasure to make your acquaintance again. We end the episode. So moving forward, we're going to have to see whether Galadriel purposely got caught to try and get some information, was just trying to take some orcs down to make it look like a real thing, or ultimately that she was definitely not intending on being caught, and this thing definitely went sour. We're also going to have to see how Isildur's friendship / relationship moves forward, because Esther seemed to be feeling what he was putting down until her man showed back up. So the fact she's going to be playing multiple men is definitely going to be an interesting thing. We need more answers involving Tom Bomb and our boy, the wizard. But again, Tom Bombadil states very clearly in this episode that he's a wanderer, not a fighter, which is fantastic because if he started fighting, everybody would be getting boots put firmly to their buttocks, and it would be a very quick finishing because Tom Bombadil is that individual. And the second thing is Tom Bombadil stated very clearly the wizard is intended to go after both Sauron and the Dark Wizard. So that's something that's going to be a huge bombshell to drop on everybody. Super interested to see how that plays out. Again, if you made it to this portion of the video, sure hit that subscribe button. Clearly, there's something about this breakdown that you really enjoyed. I'm Brent for Geek Variants. I'll see you in the next episode.